everybody, I'm Michaela.
And I'm Kira.
And welcome to a special movie edition of Sports Wrap. Sit back and enjoy. Mwah.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of Sports Wrap. I am Mike Wigdor, one of the hosts of Sports Wrap, and this show is going to be the greatest football movies, and I'm doing this with my friend and co-host Frank Walsh.
Hey Mike.
How you doing, Frank?
Well,
good. And also my other friend and Frank, my friend Frank Mandosa, who's also a host on Real Life Movies with me. And we are going to show you some of the greatest football movies of all time. And so we want you to sit back and relax and enjoy the moments that we're going to give you. So Frank, the floor is yours.
okay, well, maybe the 2000 film Remember the Titans starring Denzel Washington may ring a bell. That will be the first film that we'll take a look at.
You think football is fun?
Yes. No.
Not anymore, though, is it?
Zero fun, sir.
All right.
A rousing celebration of the human spirit, filled with heart and soul.
Boy, you must be outside your mind.
I don't care if you like each other, but you will respect each other.
Academy Award winner Denzel Washington.
We're gonna change the way we run. Change the way we block. We're gonna change the way we win.
Remember the triumph.
Listen up, this is our time now.
Remember the joy.
Let these people know who's on the stage, right?
Remember the Titans.
What's going on?
You're gonna warm up a little different tonight.
Own the video or special edition DVD with 6 additional scenes not shown in theaters, 3 featurettes about the making of the film, and enhanced picture and sound.
This is my sanctuary right here. This is always right. You don't let anything, nothing come between us.
We are team.
Remember the Titans, a Jerry Bruckheimer production.
Denzel Washington stars as real-life Herman Boone. And the film was promoted by Disney as sort of a inspirational, feel-good kind of a tale. It takes place at the height of the Civil Rights era. I think the film is set in 1971, though the real-life events actually occurred a lot earlier in '63. The premise is that this is a high school that is integrating for the first time, so you have the Caucasian, you have the African-American football players having to work together as a team, the racial tensions that form as a result, and how the Denzel Washington character, how he managed to pull them together through a lot of what he calls tough love.
Yep.
Now, is that based on reality? Loosely based on reality?
The premise, the story, the characters, I think in broad sweeping strokes, it gets the story right, but as far as the setting, as far as the character dynamics, it was very, very much fictionalized.
So they didn't actually try to bring in a black coach to try to get the team going?
Well, they did. Herman Boone, it was his situation, but the way he is in real life is much different from the heroic, noble, dignified, silent sufferer of racial intolerance that Denzel Washington makes him out to be in the film.
Okay.
Apparently there was a lot of, and still remains, a lot of animosity with between a lot of his former players and himself. Apparently there was a player revolt in 1978 in real life after the events of the film occurred. A few years after the events of the film occurred, I guess they had lost a game, and so he publicly humiliated certain players by name in the locker room afterwards and invited them to quit. And so, in a show of solidarity, the team basically revolted. They walked out on him. And he does a lot of public speaking engagements now, especially when the film first came out in 2000, he'll travel to colleges. He'll make the rounds, the lecture circuit, and.
But he did get the team to play together in blacks and white, at least in the movie version, because I remember seeing a camp scene or something.
Yes, yeah, he brought them together. He took them to Gettysburg at one point
Yeah,
and
yeah,
said, "This
right.
is, this is, men united for a common goal." So the film itself, largely fictionalized, but if you're able to put that aside, it is a great film to watch. Disney does it right.
Great.
Cool.
In that sense.
All right. Well, that goes to me then. The next movie we're going to be watching is Rudy, which is probably one of the most inspirational movies you've ever seen.
After high school, I'm going to play football at Notre Dame.
Chasing a stupid dream causes nothing but you and everyone around you heartache.
The problem with dreamers is they usually are not doers.
Are you fully aware of the sacrifices you're going to have to make?
It's the most beautiful campus in the world.
Having dreams is what makes life tolerable.
Notre Dame is for rich kids, smart kids, great athletes. It's not for us.
Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to go to school here. And ever since I was a kid, everybody said it couldn't be done. I always listened to them, believed what they said. I don't want to do that anymore.
Hey, kid! Not supposed to be here.
Not everyone is meant to go to college.
I need your help.
Why should I help?
I just want to be a part of this university.
You're nuts.
Yeah, a lot of people have been telling me that lately.
Sometimes a winner is a dreamer who just won't quit.
Hey, you guys! My son's going to Notre Dame!
I'm here to play football for the Irish.
I wish God would put your heart in some of my players' bodies.
You're 5 feet nothing, 100 and nothing, and you got hardly a speck of athletic ability. In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself.
A true story from the creators of Hoosiers.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
It's actually based on a true story about this guy, this kid who was named Rudy Rudiger. Actually grew up in a steel mill town, and his father worked in a steel mill plant, and they thought he'd have to work there, and but he had dreams of always going to Notre Dame and playing football at Notre Dame, and he was like tiny, like 5'6", 160 pounds or something. I don't know if he had that much athletic ability, but that was his dream, was always to do it. And what happened was, he got rejected from Notre Dame when he applied, and he was working in the steel mill, and then I guess his best friend actually passed away. And when that happened, and his friend always believed that he could accomplish that by going to Notre Dame. So he did, he applied, he got in, and he actually became a walk-on because Notre Dame, the coach who was there, Eric Precision then, who was like a legend at the time, he wanted people to come on as walk-ons. Some of the walk-ons ended up being All-Americas. So he applied, but of course he was too small, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. And he actually became what they call a practice dummy. He was one of those people that they beat up constantly in practice. And they wanted him to leave, and he refused to leave, and he kept coming back. And he played on the team for 2 years. And like the coach said to him, there's a quote in when I was reading about it that said that he wished that some of his players had the size of the heart that this kid had, because that was the only thing that was missing, was that he wasn't big enough. But what happened to him is that he actually got to play in a game and actually got to go through that tunnel onto the field at Notre Dame, played in a game, and actually at the end he actually sacked the quarterback. They played Georgia Tech in a real game. And at the end of the game, they carried him off the field. And he's like the only one of 2 players that Notre Dame football team has ever carried off the field. So, I mean, the team rallied around him.
It's
And,
cool,
he
very
ma-
inspirational story.
Yeah, it's a
It's
great.
interesting you're talking about, beating up the practice dummy. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of like what you normally do to me on the show when we don't have guests. You beat up the practice dummy.
I don't know about that.
Glad to be a buffer.
You're too big for that, Frank.
So I have one too.
Yep.
Mine, is kind of like yours. It pulls at the heartstrings a little bit, and mine is also a true story called Brian's Song, and it was a made-for-TV movie that actually won several awards, nominated for some Emmys, and won some awards. And it's basically a story of a relationship between two players. Brian Piccolo, who was a friend of Gale Sayers, and they befriended each other with the Chicago Bears. And shortly after they formed their friendship, and Gale was trying to encourage him to get on the team, Brian Piccolo developed cancer.
Yeah, I remember watching that.
Which brought the relationship bond between the two of them. And I think in the trailer here, you're going to see that bond and that connection, and we can pick it up from there after.
Okay.
This is a story about two men. They competed for the same job. One was white, the other black. One liked to talk a lot.
You said, uh-huh.
The other was shy as a 3-year-old.
Hey, rookies got to stick together.
Our story is about how they came to know each other, fight each other,
I'm going to whip you, Sayers. But you got to be at your best.
and help each other.
I think I owe you a beer. I owe you a lot more than that.
Yeah.
What it comes down to is that JC had a notion here, and Ed seems to think it's a good idea.
We'd like you and Brian Piccolo to room together.
You had me worried. I thought it was something really.
This is something really. Man, you talking about a white man and a black man rooming together on a team that's never been done before.
What JC is saying is that there may be some pressures, severe ones.
I was afraid to get up. I figured not everything was going to come with me.
You have never seen anyone so black and blue in your life.
It's like rooming with a colored player again.
Gail told the joke.
Gail, I'm sending Brian Piccolo back to Chicago. He's always been in shape, willing to give 100%. But he's not doing that anymore. And that's what worries me. I don't know what it is. Could be something physical, or it might be an emotional disturbance.
I mean, I know perfectly well what's wrong with me. Gail, I think I'm pregnant.
Don't make fun of me, Brian. I'm scared.
I'm no idiot. This thing I got's bad, I know that. But, well, it's just a detour, Joy. I'm not gonna let it stop me. I'm just not. There's no way.
The tough, tender, and true story of Gale Sayers and Brian Piccolo.
Yeah, I think you can see from that movie, you know, how close of a bond that they formed and the relationship that they bonded, you know, during the troubled times, similar to one of the other movies where there was racial tension. And as I said, that's the first time that, you know, a black and a white had roomed together. And it got to the point where, you know, Gale Sayers had to fight for him to stay on the team. Piccolo knew that he was dying and he was continuing to play.
Wow.
And then, you know, he ended up playing and unfortunately passed away at 26.
Yeah.
And if you
that's
watch
amazing.
that movie and you see the speech that James Caan delivers at the eulogy towards the end,
yeah, now
bring some handkerchiefs for that one.
Gale Sayers, what, did he
Hall of Fame.
No, is that the Hall of Fame speech where he got the he got a trophy Somebody gave him a trophy, and then he said, he came up, and instead of talking about himself, he talked about
dedicated
Piccolo.
to Brian Piccolo, yeah. And you know, talked about that. You know, I love Brian Piccolo, and told the story, and a beautiful story, well deserving of the accolades and awards, and the supporting cast really brought it together as well.
Yeah.
And they were able to take a sensitive topic of the time as the race relationships, and as you could see, they did it in a lighthearted way.
Yeah,
you know, Jack Warden had to play the tough coach, but the two of them never saw each other as black and white. They saw each other as football players and friends.
Right.
So, great movie. I'd
That's
go
good.
and recommend
Excellent. Yeah. All right, I guess that brings back to me, right? So the next movie we're going to talk about actually gets into the real gridiron, the real grit and blood and guts and everything else that's involved in it, because this is an Oliver Stone movie, and Al Pacino's in it, and it's called Any Given Sunday. So get ready for this.
By corporations.
I am not re-signing a 39-year-old quarterback, no matter how great he was. The economics just don't work.
I coach my way.
When the players
They got 4 years to make their $1 million, and that's it.
are corrupted by wealth and fame.
It's a short life, but it's a goddamn glorious one.
It's about the money. Football is a corporation.
He may sell a lot of T-shirts, this kid, but he's tearing this team apart.
Well, then you hold it together.
When tradition
This guy started coaching back in the late 60s.
is threatened by youth.
Your time is over unless you start playing this game the way it's played today.
There's no concentration. There's no focus.
A battle is fought
Money is the only thing I respect.
for the soul of a game.
Today, I'm ashamed to be your coach.
Why the hell do you think my father put me in charge of bullheaded moron? You got old.
This is the noise that keeps me awake. My head that explodes and my body.
No intensity. No victory. Where the hell is your intensity, Tony?
Any Given Sunday.
Yeah, this is a real football movie, probably about what really happens in the game itself, because Oliver Stone is known for realism when he does his movies, wouldn't you say, with like Wall Street, Platoon. He gets right down into the nitty-gritty of whatever he's talking about.
I feel some aches and pains just watching that trailer.
I know.
Some of those hits.
Yeah, so in this movie, he plays like a 30-year-old, a coach that's been with the team for 30 years. And he's coaching this team, the Miami Sharks, that's trying to get to the playoffs. And what happens is he has to rely on a third-string quarterback to try to get him there, which is Jamie Foxx, who's really more interested in his own celebrity and, you know, becoming a star and getting endorsements and all that. So he doesn't actually pay attention to the coach. The coach benches him, and then he actually finds out that he needs him to come back, but at the same time, Jamie Foxx realizes that he's not all that big. He's not that, you know, he could be put down also. So he comes back and he helps save a win for them. And then, and the other thing that's famous about this movie is his pregame speech before one of the playoff games, where he says that you have to fight inch by inch, and you have to be able to rely on your teammate next to you, and you both have to like go at it like stronger than, you know, the opposition in order to just keep calling and winning, and because they're like in the depths, but now they're coming back out to try to, you know, make it to the playoffs and get ahead. So that's a famous speech by him, but it just has incredible scenes that are, you know, that actually go on the gridiron, you know, the hitting and everything. You could hear it, the crunching, the bones and muscles. And Lawrence Taylor, who was a real professional football player, a great Hall of Famer for the New York Giants, is in the movie. So they try to give it realism as much as possible. And it's a great movie, a good cast. Cameron Diaz is in it. She plays the owner who's like fed up with this guy who's the coach now. And James Woods is in there. He plays the medical doctor, has them go back in when they're still injured. Kind of what happens today. So it has a lot of similarities to the game that's being played today, but I think you'll definitely enjoy that movie.
Cool.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
It was a very good one. So what brings you, Frank, what do you have for your, coming to yours, I guess?
You're familiar with Carolina Panthers left tackle Michael Orr?
Yes.
Yes.
He helped guide Baltimore to the Super Bowl win in 2012, I believe
Correct.
it was.
Yep.
His life story, or at least his early years, his formative years, they were depicted in a 2009 film called The Blind Side.
I'm not cutting, I'm just asking. Let me tell you something, all right? We have been sitting around here for over an hour, and when I look around, all I see are people shooting the bull and drinking coffee.
How can I help you?
Oh, he was first.
No, you go ahead. I think I want to hear this.
Me too.
You're right.
Excuse me?
You're right? How those words taste coming out of your mouth?
Like vinegar.
Who is that, SJ?
Big Mike. He goes to high school here.
What is he wearing? It's below freezing. Do you have any place to stay tonight? Don't you dare lie to me. Was this a bad idea?
What's the big deal? It's just for one night. It is just for one night, right, Leanne?
Tell me just one thing I should know about you.
I don't like to be called Big Mike.
Leah, is this another one of your charities?
I need to find out more about his past.
He's been enrolled in 7 different institutions. His grade point average begins with 0.
He needs to do better in school.
I'd love to work with him.
This is mine?
Yes, sir.
Never had one before.
What, a room to yourself?
A bed.
Michael's grades have improved enough that he can go out for spring football.
How's he doing?
Haven't quite gotten the hang of it yet.
It's all real nice what you're doing, but don't be surprised if one day you wake up and he gone.
I heard you got you a new mama now. She fine, too.
Michael was here.
Tell him to sleep with one eye open.
You threatened my son. You threatened me.
Sandra Bullock.
We're in the middle of practice, Leanne.
You can thank me later. This team is your family, Michael. You have to protect him. Tony here's your quarterback. You protect his blind side. When you look at him, you think of me.
Yes, ma'am.
SJ, you're gonna want to get this.
Mike's the best left tackle I've seen in years.
You're changing that boy's life. No, he's changing mine.
That's one of those movies that you cannot help but really fall in love with. Even more so for me personally than Remember the Titans.
It's a feel-good movie.
It's very much a feel-good movie. Yeah. The acting is great. Michael Orr, the real-life Michael Orr, he has been very conflicted about the movie. I know that he went through a period where he actually resented it. He did not take too kindly to his being portrayed as someone who had to learn how to use effective football techniques. He took issue with his character being depicted as one who really didn't understand the game or find the proper motivation. You saw in the trailer how she said, "You protect him, you're protecting me." He took issue with that. At one point he even said that he is tired of the movie, he's only here to play football. But more recently, with ESPN, he has said that I don't know if he's actually said it, but he has come across at least that he's more or less he's made his peace with the fact that that movie's not going anywhere, and that most people's familiarity with him and with his backstory really comes from this film.
And that was an award-winning film too, wasn't it?
It was. Sandra Bullock won Best Actress. I think it was up for Best Picture. And
Yeah, I think it was good. I mean, it shows. I mean, at the end, it shows that he became, a professional football player, and it shows how he, how he grew up, and how that part is accurate, is it? That he was an orphan, and that she adopted him.
I think to an extent, yeah, to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, it's Hollywood.
Hollywood's going to fabricate because that's what Hollywood does.
That's right, glamorized.
But, as far as the storytelling is concerned, it got the essence of the story, but a lot of the details of his identity he felt were fiddled around with a bit too much.
Yeah, I think it was. I enjoyed the movie too. It's more like it's broader than a football movie.
Oh, it's more than a football
family
movie, yeah.
and themes and even racial.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, personal relationship
Personal
between you know
relationships,
them. But for the sake of time, I think we need to
We do.
move on for our next one here. We've got kind of a chuckle, kind of a football movie spoof called The Longest Yard, and this is the original Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds and a pretty famous cast of characters. And in a nutshell, it's about, you know, Burt Reynolds playing this, you know, fast and loose playboy, steals his girlfriend's car, and ends up, and he's a football player, you know, he's a football player, quarterback, ends up having a fight with his girlfriend, steals her car, and gets busted and ends up in prison. And little and behold, they have a football team in prison. What a surprise!
Yeah, really.
You know, without that, there's no movie.
That's right.
And but they have a football team, and they try to commandeer Burt Reynolds into becoming a football, you know, quarterback for the team. He doesn't want to. He started to get shunned because they realized that he did some kind of a petty crime. And then they were playing the guards against the inmates, and the inmates were always losing to the guards, and they said, hey, let's put the petty differences aside, let's get this quarterback in here, and let's go out there and start kicking some tail on the guards. And the whole thing's kind of spoofy and funny, and there are some pretty graphic and dramatic scenes in there about the relationships between the guards and the prison. But it basically kind of blends a flavor of football with a little bit of prison life, and also, you know, a little tension, a little drama, but also you walk away with more smiles than anything else. Let's take a look.
Burt Reynolds, the electricity that turns on the most outrageous team in football. The Mean Machine, supercharged and power-driven to the longest yard. Burt Reynolds, the quarterback who will tackle anything.
You have a driver's license? Yeah, look what we got here, a miniature cop.
The superstar.
I feel so good.
Get off of me.
The stud. The All-American. The All-Amazing. A joker of a jock who laughed all the way to prison.
Paul Crew, the wrecking crew.
Anybody who's pro football's most valuable player's got something special.
So you do it standing up? All right, let's move it.
A hero so special, he gets special treatment.
They'll put you in the oven. Rise and shine. It's room service.
How do you like them apples?
Superstar.
Shaving points off of a football game, man, that's un-American.
Football faggot.
I'm gonna get you 24 hours in a hot box, boy.
I quit. My God, what the hell is that?
That's a member of the Warden football team.
And I run a football team.
What football team?
My football team.
He assembled the meanest, dirtiest team in history.
We're getting up a football game against the guards.
With the guards?
Yeah, I want to play.
I'm gonna play football.
And taught them how to be meaner.
The one thing that you're gonna have to remember is to protect your quarterback. Me.
Go! Get in there now!
And dirtier.
Before this game is over, I want every prisoner in this institution to know what I mean by power. I want a 21-point spread.
We've come too far together to stop now.
Let's do it.
Okay, so that's the first show that we're going to show you here. Greatest football movies. Come back and we'll do another one for part 2. Until then, from Mike Wigdor,
Frank Walsh,
and Frank Mendoza,
we will see you down the road.